My name is Anna. I am 28 years old. I am new in New York City. I don't speak English well, so I take a taxi every day. And I try to speak English. The city is big. It is also busy. There are many people. There are many cars. Sometimes I feel lost. I do not have a car. I do not drive. I do not know the buses. So I use taxis to go places. Taxis are easy for me. I want to learn English. I want to speak with people. I want to ask questions. I want to understand answers. That is why I talk to taxi drivers. One morning, I needed to go to the train station. I walked to the street. A yellow taxi came. I raised my hand. The driver stopped. I opened the door and said, "Hello, is this taxi free?" The driver smiled and said, "Yes, please get in." I sat in the back seat. I said, "I want to go to the train station." He said, "Okay, it will take 15 minutes. I asked, "How much is it?" He said, "It is $10. "That is fine," I said. "Please go fast." "I am late." He said, "Okay, I will try my best, but I will drive safe too." I said thank you. Then he started the car. We drove down a wide street. I looked out the window. I saw many shops. I saw people walking. Some people were carrying bags. Some people were eating. The weather was nice and sunny. I wanted to talk more. So I asked, "Do you go to the station every day?" The driver said, "Yes, many people take taxis there." Then I asked, "Do you like your job?" He said, "Yes, I like it. I meet many people. Some people are nice. Some people are not. But most are good." I smiled. I liked his answer. I said, "I take taxis to learn English." He looked at me in the mirror and said, "That is a good idea." Then he turned on the radio. A soft song started to play. The car was quiet. I liked the music. We stopped at a red light. Then we moved again. I saw a bus on the road. I saw a man on a bike. I saw 2 boys with a dog. The dog was small and white. It ran in circles. The driver said, "We are almost there." I looked ahead. I saw the train station. It was big and gray. Many people stood outside. He stopped the car near the main door. I gave him $10. He said, "Thank you." I said, "Thank you too. Have a nice day." He smiled and said, "You too. Good luck." I got out and walked inside the station. Later that day, I needed to go to the hospital. I had a doctor's appointment. I walked to the road again. A taxi came and stopped near me. I said, "Hello, can you take me to the hospital?" The driver said, "Yes, please sit." I got into the car and sat in the front seat. I said, "Thank you." I asked, "Is it far?" He said, "No, only 10 minutes." Then I asked, "How much is it?" He said, "It is $8. I said, "That is okay. Please go quickly." He said, "Yes, but please wear your seatbelt." I said, "Okay," and I put on the belt. We started the ride. The road was not very busy. I saw a small cafe. I saw a man selling fruit. I saw a group of students near a school. I liked looking outside. I asked, "Do you go to the hospital often?" He said, "Yes, many people go there." I asked, "Is it busy today?" He said, "A little, but not too much traffic." I said, "That's good. I don't want to be late." He said, "Don't worry. I will get you there on time." We passed a park. We passed a bakery. We passed a small shop with flowers. Then I saw the hospital. It was big and white. There were many cars in the parking lot. The driver said, "We are here." He stopped near the door. I gave him $10. He gave me $2 back. He said, "Here is your change." I said, "Thank you." He said, "You are welcome. Take care." I said, "You too." The next morning, I wanted to buy new shoes. I wanted to go to City Mall. I went to the street again. I saw a taxi and waved. The driver stopped and opened the window. I said, "Can you take me to City Mall?" He said, "Yes, of course. Please get in." I got in the car and sat in the back seat. I said, "Thank you." I asked, "Is there traffic now?" He said, "A little, but I know a faster way." I said, "That is good." The sun was hot. The car was warm. The driver asked, "Do you want the air on?" I said, "No, thank you. Can I open the window?" He said, "Yes, go ahead." I opened the window. The wind felt cool. I smiled. I saw many shops on the street. I saw people walking. Some people had shopping bags. Some people had ice cream. I saw a woman with a baby. I liked to look around. I asked, "How much is the ride?" The driver said, "It is $12. I said, "That is okay. Not too much." Then I asked, "Do you drive every day?" He said, "Yes, I drive 6 days a week." I asked, "Do you like your job?" He said, "Yes, I like to talk to people, and I like to drive." I said, "You are very kind." He said, "Thank you. You speak good English." I said, "I try to learn. I practice in taxis." He smiled and said, "That is smart." I looked ahead and saw the mall. It was big and bright. I said, "Can you stop near the main door?" He said, "Yes, I will stop close." I said, "I have heavy bags today." He said, "No problem. I will help you." He stopped near the entrance. He got out and opened the door for me. I gave him $12. He said, "Thank you very much." I said, "Thank you. Have a nice day." He said, "You too." I walked into the mall. I felt good. I spoke English. I understood many things. I asked and answered many questions. The taxi drivers were friendly. They helped me learn. I smiled as I walked. I knew I would take a taxi again tomorrow. I would ask more questions. I would listen more. I would speak more. Every ride was a lesson. Every driver was a teacher. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. The next day, I needed to go to the park. It was a nice day. The sun was warm. The sky was blue. I wanted to read my book in the park. I walked to the street. I waited for a taxi. After a few minutes, one came. I smiled and said, "Hello, can you take me to Green Park?" The driver said, "Yes, get in please." I got in and sat down. I said, "I am new here. I don't know the way." He said, "That's okay. I know it well. It will take about 15 minutes. I asked, "How much will it cost?" He said, "It is $7. I said, "That is fine." We started to drive. I looked outside the window. There were trees. There were people walking. Some people walked with dogs. Some people pushed baby strollers. I liked the view. The driver asked, "Do you like the city?" I said, "Yes, it is big, but nice." He asked, "Where are you from?" I said, "I am from Poland." He said, "Welcome. I hope you like it here." I smiled and said, "Thank you." Then I asked, "Do you drive all day?" He said, "No, I drive in the morning and in the evening. I rest in the afternoon." I said, "That is a good idea. You need rest too." He laughed and said, "Yes, rest is important." I asked, "Do you have children?" He said, "Yes, I have 2 boys." I said, "That's nice. How old are they?" He said, "One is 8. One is 10. They go to school." I said, "That's great. Do they like school?" He said, "Not always, but they go." I laughed. "That is normal." Then he asked, "Do you work?" I said, "Not now. I am looking for a job." He said, "What kind of job?" I said, "I worked in a store before. I also helped in a small office." He said, "There are many jobs in the city." I said, "Yes, but I want to learn English first." He smiled and said, "You speak very well already." I said, "Thank you. I try. I speak with drivers every day." We were almost at the park. I saw the green trees. I saw people sitting on benches. I said, "It is very nice here." The driver said, "Yes, Many people come to relax. He stopped near the park gate. I gave him $7. He said, "Thank you." I said, "Thank you too. Have a good day." He said, "Enjoy the park." I got out and walked inside. I sat on a bench. I opened my book. I read for 1 hour. Then I walked home. The weather was still warm. I felt happy and calm. The next morning, I needed to go to the airport. My friend was coming to visit me. She was flying from Poland. I wanted to meet her. I went outside and found a taxi. I said, "Hello, can you take me to the airport?" The driver said, "Yes, please get in." I sat in the back and said, "Thank you." He asked, "Which airport?" I said, "JFK Airport, please." He said, "Okay. It will take 30 minutes. Maybe more with traffic." I said, "That is fine. I have time." I asked, "How much will it cost?" He said, "It is $25. I said, "Okay. I have the money." Then we started to drive. We passed many cars. The road was full. The driver said, "Morning traffic is always slow." I said, "Yes, I see." He said, "But we will get there." We talked a little. He asked, "Is someone coming?" I said, "Yes, my best friend. She is coming today." He said, "That is nice. You must be happy." I said, "Yes, I am very happy." He asked, "Will she stay with you?" I said, "Yes, for 1 week. We will go to museums and parks." He said, "That sounds good. There are many places to see." I said, "I want to show her the city." He said, "She will like it. Many people love New York." I said, "Yes, it is big and interesting." We saw tall buildings. We saw bridges. We saw a big river. The sun was bright now. The driver said, "The airport is not far now." I said, "That is good. Thank you." We arrived at the airport. Many people were there. Saw buses and taxis. Gave the driver $25. He said, "Thank you very much." I said, "You are welcome." I went inside the airport and waited. After some time, I saw my friend. She smiled and waved. I was very happy to see her. We hugged and laughed. Then we walked out to find another taxi. We saw one near the door. I said, "Hello, we want to go to my home." The driver said, "Please get in." We sat in the back seat. I gave him my address. He said, "Okay, I know that area." I said, "Thank you." My friend looked outside. She said, "New York is so big." I said, "Yes, it is very big." The driver asked, "Is she your sister?" I said, "No, she is my best friend." He said, "Welcome to the city." My friend smiled and said, "Thank you." We talked during the ride. My friend asked about places to see. I told her about the museums. I told her about the big park. I told her about the tall buildings. We reached my home. I paid the driver. He said, "Thank you. Have a nice day." I said, "Thank you too." We went inside and put the bags down. My friend said, "Your English is better now." I said, "Yes, I speak with taxi drivers every day." She said, "That is a smart idea." I said, "It helps me speak more." We rested for a while. Then we went outside to walk. We ate lunch at a small cafe. We talked and laughed. I felt happy to be with her. That evening, we took a taxi to the museum. I told the driver where to go. He asked, "Is this your first time there?" I said, "No, but my friend is new here." He said, "The museum is nice. You will enjoy it." We looked at art and pictures. We learned about history. We took photos. After that, we took a taxi back home. The city lights were very bright. The driver said, "The lights look like stars." I said, "Yes, they are beautiful." We got home and sat on the sofa. My friend said, "You speak more now." I said, "I try every day." She said, "You are doing well." I smiled. I was proud. I still made mistakes, but I was better than before. Talking in taxis helped me learn. I wanted to keep going. The next morning, I woke up early. My friend was still sleeping. I made tea and looked outside. The street was quiet. The sky was gray. It looked like rain. I sat by the window and thought about my English. I still had much to learn, but I was not afraid. I wanted to learn more every day. After breakfast, my friend and I wanted to go to the bookstore. She wanted to buy a city map. I wanted to look at easy English books. We got ready and walked to the street. We waited for a taxi. One came soon. I opened the door and said, "Hello, can you take us to the bookstore?" The driver said, "Yes, please get in." We sat in the back. I said, "We want to go to Main Street Bookstore." He said, "Okay, I know it. It will take about 20 minutes. I asked, "How much is it?" He said, $12. I said, "That's okay." We drove through the city. The road was a little busy. The driver said, "It may take more time. There is some traffic." I said, "That's fine. We are not in a hurry." My friend looked out the window. She said, "The city is beautiful." I said, "Yes, it has many places to see." I talked to the driver. I said, "I like to speak English in taxis. It helps me learn." He smiled and said, "That is a good idea." I asked, "Where are you from?" He said, "I am from Morocco." I said, "That's nice. Do you like this city?" He said, "Yes, I live here now with my family. My children go to school here." I said, "That is good." We talked more about schools, food, and weather. He said, "Winter here is cold." I said, "Yes, I must buy a warm coat." He laughed and said, "Yes, coats are very important here." We reached the bookstore. He stopped the car. I gave him $12. He said, "Thank you. Have a good day." I said, "Thank you. You too." We got out and walked inside the store. The bookstore was big. There were many books. My friend found a map. I found a small English book for beginners. It had short stories. I was happy. We bought the books and left. We were hungry, so we looked for a place to eat. We found a small restaurant. We went inside and sat near the window. I looked at the menu. It was in English. I could read some words. I asked the server, "What is good today?" She said, "The soup is good." I said, "Okay, I will take the soup." My friend ordered a sandwich. While we waited, we talked about my English. My friend said, "You are better now." I said, "Yes, I learn more every day. I still make mistakes, but I keep going." She said, "That's the best way to learn." I smiled. I felt proud. After lunch, we went outside. It started to rain. We had no umbrella. We found a taxi near the street. I said, "Hello, can you take us to Central Mall?" The driver said, "Yes, come in, quickly." We got into the car. I said, "Thank you. It is raining a lot." He said, "Don't worry. You are safe now." The driver was friendly. He asked, "Do you go to the mall often?" I said, "No, but I work there now." He said, "Really? What do you do?" I said, "I work in a shop." He said, "That is nice." I told him about my new job. It was part-time. I helped with clothes and shoes. I liked the job. I spoke to customers. I used easy English. The people were kind. They helped me too. I asked the driver, "Do you work all day?" He said, "Not all day. I start in the morning. I stop in the evening." I said, "That is a long day." He said, "Yes, but I meet many people." The road was slow because of the rain. The driver said, "Rain makes traffic bad." I said, "Yes, I hope we are not late." He said, "I will try a faster way." He turned down a small road. It was quiet. We moved faster. I said, "Thank you. You are a good driver." He said, "Thank you. You are a good learner." I laughed. My friend laughed too. We reached the mall. The driver stopped near the main door. I gave him $10. He said, "Thank you." I said, "Thank you. Please keep the change." He said, "You are kind. Have a good day." I said, "You too." Inside the mall, I showed my friend the shop where I worked. We looked at bags and shoes. We walked around and talked. After some time, we were tired. We sat on a bench and watched people. My friend said, "You are learning a lot here." I said, "Yes, I learn in taxis, in shops, and at work. She said, I am proud of you. I said, thank you. I just try a little every day. That night we took one more taxi. We went to the river to see the lights. I said to the driver, please take us to River Park. He said, of course. It is a nice place. We drove at night. The sky was dark. The lights in the city were bright. The roads were quiet. We talked about the city. The driver said, I came here 10 years ago. At first, I was scared, but now it is home. I said, that is how I feel too. We arrived at the park. The lights on the water were beautiful. I gave the driver money. He said, thank you. Enjoy the view. I said, thank you. I will. We sat by the water. We talked about the week. My friend said, this was a nice trip. I said, yes, and I learned so much. She said, you will learn more. I said, yes, I will. I take a taxi every day. And I speak English. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and share. More emotional and inspiring stories are coming soon.